this again without me fucking it up by accident. Woo! What was I talking about before? Oh yeah, thinking of Ithaca as being out of joint, and the like. Nevona, you're not starting late. We just had a technical issue and had to restart. Let's see. Where were we? Yeah, Odysseus will return. He will come home and take revenge on any man who offends his wedded wife and princely son. Good news, you replied, Eumaeus, loyal swineherd. But I will never pay a reward for that, old friend. Odysseus, he'll never come back home again. Never. Drink your wine, sit back. Let's talk of other things. Don't remind me of all this. The heart inside me breaks when anyone mentions my dear master. That oath of yours, we'll let it pass. Odysseus, oh, come back. Just as I wish, I and Penelope, old Laertes too, Telemachus too, the godlike boy. How I grieve for him now. I can't stop. Odysseus' son, Telemachus. The gods reared him up like a fine young tree, and I often said, in the ranks of men he'll match his father, his own dear father. Amazing in build and looks, that boy, but all of a sudden a god wrecks his sense of balance. God or man, no matter. Off he's gone to catch some news of his father, down to holy Pylos. And now those gallant suitors lie in wait for him, sailing home to tear the royal line of Odysseus out of Ithaca, root and branch, good name and all. Enough. Let him pass too, whether he's trapped or the hand of Zeus will pull him through alive. Come, old soldier, tell me the story of your troubles. Tell me truly, too. I'd like to know it well. Who are you? Where are you from? Your city, your parents? What sort of vessel brought you here? Why did the sailors land you here in Ithaca? Who do they say they are? I hardly think you came this way on foot, which would be super fucking impossible since we are in an island. How the hell would he get here on foot unless he swam, which, like, no. The great teller of tales returned at length. My story, whole truth. I'm glad to tell it all. Yeah, unless you are Orion or some other son of Poseidon. If only the two of us had food and mellow wine to last us long. Here in your shelter now for us to sup on undisturbed, while others take the work of the world in hand. I could easily spend all year and never reach the end of my endless story. All the heartbreaking trials I struggled through. I missed my chance earlier since I missed the first few book clubs. Why is Telemachus constantly called godlike? Because he's good looking. Sergio, we talked about that in an earlier book club. Like, why are we calling them godlike? It just means they are hella good looking. Yes, this introduction is standard Homer for we're about to yap. He's not the sharpest crane in the box. Well, I mean, Odysseus doesn't look anything like himself, and he doesn't sound like himself. Like, Eumaeus has no reason to believe this is Odysseus. Do we have any stories about anything to yes, we actually discussed that last week. Yes, there's a piece called the Telegony. If you want to read the summary for it, we do not have it in its completion. For what happens to Telemachus after the Odyssey. That's really the only source we have for him afterwards. Oh, the whole walking comment. But yes, so me, with the asterisks. If you go actually to last week's book club in the Q&A section afterwards, somebody had asked what happens to Telemachus after the Odyssey, and that's a piece called the Telegony. There's no Telegony in Bossing Say. Which I will note is a lost epic. We don't have the complete text. We have scattered lines, and we do have ancient summaries of it. But this is really the only stuff we have for what happens to Telemachus post-Odyssey. Really, Telemachus, Penelope, Odysseus, it's the only stuff we have of them post-Odyssey. I hail from Crete's broad land,
I'm proud to say. And I'm a rich man's son. And many other sons he brought up in his palace, born in wedlock, sprung of his lawful wife. Unlike my mother, she was a slave, a concubine he purchased, yes. But he treated me on par with all his true-born sons. Castor, Hylex's son. I'm proud to boast his blood, that man revered like a god throughout all of Crete those days, for wealth, power, and all his glorious offspring. But the deadly spirits soon swept him down to the house of death, and his high and mighty sons carved up his lands and cast lots for the parts, and gave me just a pittance, a paltry house as well. But I won myself a wife from wealthy, landed people, thanks to my own strong points. I was no fool, and never shirked a fight. But now my heyday's gone. I've had my share of blows. Yeah, look hard at the husk and you'll still see. I think the grain that gave it life. By heaven, Ares gave me courage, Athena too, to break the ranks of men wide open. Once, in the old days, whenever I picked my troops and formed an ambush, plotting attacks to spring against our foes. No hint of death could daunt my fighting spirit. Far out in the front I'd charge and spear my man. I'd cut down any enemy soldier backing off. Such was I in battle. True. But I had no love for working the land, the chores of households either, the labor that raises crops of shining children. It was always oar-swept ships that thrilled my heart. And wars, and the long polished spears and arrows, dreadful gear that makes the next man cringe. I lump them all.
Did Eumaeus admit Odysseus that he had heard the suitors plan to kill Telemachus when talking about how the suitors have been acting? Yes, that is what Eumaeus has said. He says they've been plotting. I heard they want to try to waylay him. Which Eumaeus has sort of read, which I don't know how much Eumaeus takes them seriously, to be fair. But also, Telemachus sailing off to Pylos, he's put himself in the way of danger, which was sort of on purpose, but I mean, the suitors do lie in wait for him. I mean, the idea is, like, the suitors are getting to, again, the whole point is that Ithaca's reaching a powder keg status. Like, it's on the brink of disaster. Was Castor or Hylex a real person? Castor of Hylex. Oh, the person, he's made him up, so far as I can remember. But you know what? Let's check just in case. Pretty sure he has made that up. But, you know. Yeah, it's made up. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's made up, but I'll double check just in case I'm forgetting something random. Yeah, no, he's made it up. He's completely made it up. He's rightfully assuming Eumaeus would have no idea who the rich men of Crete are, and so, in relation to this question, is Eumaeus in any sort of danger from the suitors? He could be. I mean, if anarchy, if like a full usurpation were to break out, I mean, he's tied to the palace, so he would have to then kind of serve whoever is king. But, you know, there's always a potential for danger to a degree. Rabbit hole 2 of this stream. It's not that deep a rabbit hole, more just checking. But yeah. My sources, I made it up. I mean, in this case, again, Odysseus is right in thinking Eumaeus is going to have no way to clock him on this lie. Odie would win so many Twitter arguments. Yeah, he would. Odysseus would be a lawyer in another life, to a degree. Because lawyers don't like just lie through their teeth, but are really good with language and words. And that's really what Odysseus becomes a true master of post Circe and Polyphemus. Like, after going through his trials, the whole thing is like he becomes a much even better speaker in the way that he uses words. Thank you, Nori. Every modern Odie, make him a lawyer? I mean, it just makes sense. Or a politician, arguably. He's a good debater. He could be, yeah. But yes, no, with regards to him hearing about the suitors in Telemachus, he's heard it. The problem is when you hear a rumor, how much of it do you trust, right? Because if he's heard it from a guy who's heard it from a guy who's heard it from a guy, he's like, but for him, it's more like, for Eumaeus having heard this, it's more the like, look at the state of things here on Ithaca. Like, this is how far Ithaca has fallen. What is that unicorn piano screaming? That was acting children. Yes, Peg. Honey, do you want to come up on the? Want to come up on the chair? Come here. Come here. Come on, uppies. Up, up. Good job. Peg wants uppies. She does. You want to take the... Okay, well, Peg, now I'm going to get covered by the chat, which is kind of rude. But okay, sure. Who needs to see my face? This is the Peg show. I am covered by the chat. Okay. All right. We can both fit, but now I must slightly adjust. There we go. That's better. Yes, there we go. Peg. Here. I'll do even better. Ah! That was too far. You get all of the... There we go. Now we get Peg. Peg front and center the way she deserves to be. I'm going to turn that just slightly. There we go. Yeah, there we go. This is the Peg show. Painting himself like a raider is on purpose by Homer. Well, I mean, yeah, I bet he probably is. And I bet it is on purpose by Homer, since we know Odysseus has that epithet, polyportos, sacker of cities. I think painting him as a raider would be totally purposeful by Homer. Epic chat. If we're talking the mythological characters, Telemachus wins. Hands down, not even a contest. Bye. If we're talking epic Telemachus versus Paris, Jesus. I wouldn't even want to watch that match. It'd be terrible. It'd be lame. It'd be the lamest fight you ever see. But if we're talking mythology, my money's on Telemachus. Hands down, no questions. Telemachus would beat the shit out of Paris. Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, are we talking epic or OG? It is her throne. Yeah. She likes that side more. I don't know why. It's her thing. Where am I? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No. There's always war-swept ships that swept my heart, and wars and the long-polished spears and arrows. Dreadful gear that makes the next man cringe. I loved them all. God's planted that love inside me. Each man delights in the work that suits him best. Why, long before we Achaeans ever camped at Troy, 9 commands I led in our deep-sea-going ships, raiding foreign men, and a fine haul reached my hands. I helped myself to the lion's share, and still more spoils came by lots. And my house grew by leaps and bounds. I walked among the Cretans honored, feared as well. But then, when thundering Zeus contrived that expedition, that disaster that brought so many fighters to their knees, and men kept pressing me, a renowned Eumaeus, to head a fleet to Troy, there was no way out. No denying them then. The voice of the people bore down much too hard. So 9 whole years we Achaeans soldiered on at Troy. In the 10th we sacked King Priam's city, then embarked for home in the long ships, and a god dispersed the fleet. Unlucky me. Shrewd old Zeus was plotting still more pain. No more than a month I stayed at home, taking joy in my children, loyal wife, lovely plunder. But a spirit in me urged, set sail for Egypt, fit out ships, take crews of heroes. For Peg's cucumber fun, so she can't eat as many carrots. Aww. Thank you, Clover. Yes, I know she's not supposed to have nearly as many carrots due to carrots and their phosphorus content is a little high. She can really only have very few of them.
but cucumbers are totally safe. For those who don't know, Peg got a recent kind of tentative, but it does seem to be total diagnosis of early kidney disease, so she has to be on a very strict and special diet. And carrots, her one great love, have to be had in extreme moderation. Just due to their phosphorus content, which is something you need to watch with dogs on a kidney specialized diet. I know, oh, Jake, that's right, you haven't heard. I'm sorry, Jake, I'm breaking the news to you like this. The carrot is still kind of her emblem, if you will, but in reality it is, sadly, she has to eat far less of them, which, trust me, she's not happy about either. But we go back for blood work in about a month, a little less than, give or take a couple days, to get her blood work rechecked, do a panel and see what's going on there again. I know, poor pig. It's what you get for, let's remember, she is 10, she'll be 11 in November, so sadly, with dogs as they get older, sometimes, their kidneys don't function as well. So thankfully, I mean, all I needed was to know, as her mom, basically, that it wasn't something I did, which, getting told that was a deep relief. I'm not gonna lie, I totally panicked thinking I'd done something to damage her kidneys, and the vet was like, she's older. Some breeds are more prone to it, and it just happens sometimes when they get older. Yes, she does have a hoard of inedible carrots. She's got many a carrot toy, which brings her great joy. So she gets support carrots, just not real ones. Which I have yet to tell my dad this, and he's going to be devastated because my dad, mind you, is known as her carrot man. He's the one who really created that deep love of them. He's going to be so upset when I tell him that. The cucumber emoji. We still do carrots for our great patron goddess, Peg. It's true, the carrot man. I know, he's going to be devastated. He's going to be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, if I make it so she doesn't eat them unless she goes to see him and he can only give her one, that might be okay, but he's still going to be so distressed. It's going to become cucumber man. Yeah, Frenchies are somewhat prone to those problems. They can be. And the fact that nothing really started to hit until this year, and again, she's in her double digits, so. Anyway, back to Odysseus spinning an absolute bullshit story. All of the cucumbers in the chat are making me laugh now. She's an old lady. Her organs are sensitive. It's true. Only the best.
9 I fitted out. The men joined up at once, and in 6 days my shipmates feasted well, while I provided a flock of sheep to offer up to the gods, and kept the feasters' table groaning. On the 7th, we launched out from the plains of Crete with a stiff north wind far astern, smooth sailing, like coasting on downstream. And not one craft in our squadron foundered. All shipshape, and all hands sound. We sat back while the wind and helmsman kept us true on course. 5 days out, and we raised the great river Nile, and there in the Nile delta moored our ships of war. God knows I ordered my trusty crews to stand by just as they were, and guard the anchored fleet. And I sent a patrol to scout things out from higher ground. But swept away by their own reckless fury, the crew went berserk. They promptly began to plunder the lush Egyptian farms, dragged off women and children, killed the men. Outcries reached the city in no time. Stirred by shouts, the entire town came streaming down at the break of day, filling the river plain with chariots, ranks of infantry, and the gleam of bronze. Zeus, who loves the lightning, flung down murderous panic on all my men-at-arms. No one dared to stand his ground and fight. Disaster ringed us round from every quarter. Droves of my men they hacked down with swords, and let off the rest alive to labor for them as slaves. And I? Zeus flashed an inspiration through my mind, though I wish I'd died a soldier down in Egypt then. A world of pain, you see, lay in wait for me.
Is the crew going berserk and not following orders meant to be similar to Ismaros? Yes. It's meant to be. Well, the issue with Ismaros isn't so much that they went berserk, but more that they dawdled. Like, Ismaros, they did everything, they followed orders, but then they were supposed to leave. But they dawdled. So it's like Ismaros meets a bit of the mutiny that happened with Helios's cattle, is kind of what he's pulling inspiration from. Yeah, he even throws his fictional crew under the bus. No love for the crew. But yeah, a little bit of Ismaros, but again, the issue there isn't so much that they went berserk, but more that they got greedy and they dawdled when they should have left. You gave time for the citizenry to rally back. Best lies come from a grain of truth, exactly. Was it believable that Zeus would inspire a random guy? Well, so he's, okay. I will say, he says Zeus inspired me. He's attributing all his good thinking to the gods. But it doesn't mean he's literally saying Zeus himself came to me and said, here's an idea. Because that would be pretty unbelievable. But saying that, like, Zeus inspires me is like saying, I have this idea. Clearly it was divine inspiration, if you will, to have this idea. Clearly Zeus, you know, you're sort of attributing it to him, but you don't mean it as literally as you could, I suppose, is the way to say it. He would be a bard swashbuckler, yes. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, like saying thank God that happened. It's like, well, thank Zeus, I got an idea. It's sort of, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, like it's such a good idea, it must have come from a god. Thank you, everybody who's putting it in better words than I could. I know the peg snores at me. She's very sleepy. And she likes these blankies.
A world of pain, you see, still lay in wait for me. Quickly, I wrenched the skullcap helmet off my head. I tore the shield from my back and dropped my spear and ran right in the path of the king's chariot, hugged and kissed his knees.
He took the image of a suppliant. He begged. Smart. Smart. Which we know he did the pose of a suppliant with the queen of the Phaeacians. So again, he's pulling on his bits of truth to spin this massive bullshit story.
He pitied me, spared me, hoisted me into his war car, took me home in tears. Troops of his men came rushing after, shaking javelins, mad to kill me.
Was it also a way of thanking the gods for anything that could possibly be a blessing so you don't accidentally not think a god who's blessed you with that note? Yeah, it very much could be. That's not a bad thought, Clover. I hadn't considered that. But yeah, a way of saying, oh, this is such a good idea. Well, just in case a god gave it to me. Thanks, Zeus, for giving me that idea. OD Master Strategists get down and grovel and beg for mercy. Hey, you know, sometimes, in this case, it's good. You're fucked. It's like, I've got a plan. But he's not even just grovel, beg for mercy, it's take the pose of a suppliant. So even though this is Egypt, we're recognizing that there is a kind of understood contract where even obviously the Egyptians understand what he's doing in that moment. Was pleading to the king in suppliant pose something that would damage Kleos? Yeah, it could. But so this is why, you know, Odysseus is like, well, I was a rich man, I did all this. Now, the whole thing is that he goes, I'm going to get Kleos elsewhere. So his character is not really meant to be achieving Kleos here. So Odysseus, the hero, yes, but this fictional character, no, because he's not a great hero. Like, he's amassing wealth and all of this, but he would never be considered a great hero. So Kleos is kind of not really on the table for his character. Like, the common man is not going to be seeking Kleos to a degree. Because he's not a great hero. And almost all of the heroes, not even almost all of the heroes, are in some way related to nobility or royalty. Like, the common man does not get to become the hero. The Greeks were like, life isn't fair. You can't pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Society isn't fair. Heavy, yes. But yes, if he were, like, if this were Odysseus and I am the hero telling the story, it could damage Kleos unless he found a way to turn it around. But even then, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like he's writing a fable with a moral lesson. Kind of. He's really just trying to spin an entertaining story, and he's pulling on his experience to help him spin the story along and make it believable. because it could be believable that a guy who's not a great hero, but who's smart enough, who was wealthy and powerful enough, would be like, but I know how to do this, because he's posing his character very much as an opportunist. He says, like, look, I was given terrible pittance, but I married well. He goes, yeah, I wasn't great at farming, but I was really good at fighting and about surviving in warfare. It's like, all these guys, they did this. I saw an opportunity to make this work for me. So this character that he's, spinning a yarn and creating is an opportunist, and a very good opportunist, but he's obviously not the Greek hero. He's an opportunist. So this is adding to sort of an opportunist would see this, the chance to live and keep going, but also noting, maybe I should have died out there, because, man, it's going to be difficult. Even his fake wife was great. That's our man. That's our Odie. And the Cleos doesn't matter because he's technically not himself, but a different character. Why does the same not apply when he calls himself nobody? Because with nobody... Okay. The difference is, let's remember, this is very much an undercover mission. Like, he's not really describing himself, he's describing a completely unknown fake character. Like, this is all part of an undercover op. Polyphemus was not an undercover op. He was himself. He says, but I am no man. I am no one. I'm erasing my identity. And it's also part of the whole journey of Odysseus as a character and how it relates to the Odyssey as an epic, because we talk about identity as a big part of the Odyssey. And who is Odysseus? Because he's given many names, many epithets. He's the man of twists and turns. He's the man of many crafts. He kind of bends and twists and folds himself into knots. So who is Odysseus? And the whole thing is that Odysseus comes into this being bound by his Cleos to Troy, and that's where he thinks all of his Cleos is going to come from, but in erasing that from himself by deliberately taking the moment to say, I'm no one, because at that point he has not totally lied when he says, well, we sailed with Agamemnon, we were part of his host. Yes, that's technically true. They sailed with Agamemnon, they were part of the host of the grand host of Greeks. Then he he lied about the ship, but it wasn't lying about who he was. Then he says, who am I? I am no man. I am anonymity itself. I am nobody. I am nothing. And this craft that he has relied on, this thing that he ties to his Cleos, he's using it to erase himself. And he then needs to kind of build it back up, because it's then all going to be tied to getting home. And he fundamentally changes as a character when he comes back from the underworld, because the underworld is what gives him kind of the kick in the ass to be like, you need to get home, and you need to get home now. Stop fucking lollygagging. Like, stop getting distracted. Stop dawdling. Get your shit together. Get your ass in gear. And that's where he kind of fundamentally changes, in that he is not wasting time. And so here, he knows who he is, right? This isn't changing his identity because we've come in with him playing a whole different character. He's in actual physical disguise. This is just for a character. It doesn't really reflect on him as the individual, if that makes sense. With Polyphemus, the fact that he was Odysseus was like a trigger for prophecy. Yes, so we had to hold that off. And then also, exactly. Yes, he was erasing himself from the narrative, otherwise the curse would hit while he was there. Of course, he doesn't know at that point, but on a narrative level, that's when he's having. Yeah, so that's a very good question. Like, totally, cry. That's actually a great question. And that's where you start really digging deep, and we get a little deeper into, intertextual analysis and what is the story really about. So I say one of the big things to remember is that also, Polyphemus wasn't an undercover op. This is an undercover op. And he is physically not himself in this moment, because, Athena has given him the glam down. I was referencing Eliza. He's not, I caught the erasing himself from the narrative. But that's actually, I want to say that was a really great question. Changing his name was a form of disguise. To a degree, but not so much, especially when you consider the Greek hero. He is still himself. He is still Odysseus. He's not really pretending to be anybody else. Versus this, he's come in, again, undercover. This is just the cover story. This is full undercover. I think that's the best way to, try and make it make sense without getting too deep into intertextual analysis. Yes, the undercover mission right now will be part of the Glory for the Ocean's 11 plan, because what he's going to do is then reveal himself as Odysseus. I am Odysseus, the king who made it home. Eat shit. Because again, now his Cleos is tied to the completion of his Nostos, which technically is still not done. Oh, Peg, are you done? Okay, I can put this back up now. So his Nostos is still technically not done because he hasn't returned as Odysseus yet. So that's still in progress. It was me, Mario. It was me, Odysseus, the whole time. That's a JoJo reference, right? Though I think. But yes, no, Cry won't say that's a very good question. I'm trying to put it in a way where I don't like lose too many people because I know there are some for whom if we get really deep into the intertextual analysis weeds might feel a little lost. So I'm trying to keep it reasonably. Yeah, Peg, however, is Does Odysseus feel like an old man physically with all the aches and pains, or did Athena only make him look old and nothing else? She only made him look old and sound old. Physically, he's still very spry. He's sort of faking it. He's leaning into the character. He's a great character actor. Very, very method. Yeah, no, it was a great question. No hero can outmatch Peg in levels of Kleos. It's true. Peg has the greatest Kleos of all heroes. It was probably a very confusing moment to join in. Ouch. Stringing the bow with arthritis. Ooh, no thanks. Hard pass. Ooh, yike. No thanks. I was going to say, oh, Mariana, you and your poor wrist.
Troops of his men came rushing after, shaking javelins, mad to kill me. They're fighting blood at the boil. But their master drove them off. He feared the wrath of Zeus, the god of guests, the first of the gods to pay back acts of outrage.
Because remember, in taking the pose of a suppliant, he's created a social contract, a kind of moral imperative on the king to follow through. And if the king were to then say, now off with his head, Zeus would go, whoa, he did the suppliant pose. He is now your guest. What the fuck, bruh?
So, there I lingered for 7 years, amassing a fortune from all the Egyptian people loading me with gifts. Then at last, when the 8th had come full turn, along comes this Phoenician one fine day.
And yes, a Phoenician, not a Phaeacian. I know, things sound similar.
A scoundrel, a swindler, an old hand at lies has already done the world a lot of damage.
Time passing is also used by Odysseus to tell the lie, but in reverse, 7 plus 1 instead of 1 plus 7 between Circe and Calypso. Correct. Is the 7 years a reference to Calypso? Yes, it is. Good catch, anxiety leaves. The 7 years is a reference to Calypso. It very much is. Again, he's pulling from his own story to help spin this cover story, this whole lie, for this character that he's playing, this son of whoever who doesn't exist.
Well, he smoothed me, talked me round, and off we sailed, Phoenicia bound, where his house and holdings lay. There, in his care, I stayed till the year was out.
The 1 year being obviously a reference to Circe, as Mariana mentioned. Me faking my resume.
And when the months and days had run their course, and the year wheeled round, and the seasons came again, he conned me aboard his freighter bound for Libya, pretending I'd help him ship a cargo there for sale. But in fact, he'd sell me there and make a killing. I suspected as much, of course, but I had no choice. So I boarded with them, yes, and the ship ran on with a good north wind gusting fast on the middle passage clear of Crete. Ah, but Zeus.
Oh, it says, oh, also, I think here he's talking about both about Circe and mostly Calypso, the trickster Phoenician. Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of a bit of both of them.
Zeus is brewing mischief for that crew. Once we'd left the island in our wake, no land at all in sight, nothing but sea and sky.
Which would be super dangerous and terrifying, and this is where they would be the most vulnerable out on the sea. Remember, with no land in sight, it's where you're at your most vulnerable for these early Bronze Age ships. HR to Odysseus when he goes to interviews for a job. Explain this gap in your resume. Well, let me tell you. Yeah, literally.
Then Zeus, the son of Cronus, mounted a thunderhead above our hollow ship, and the deep went black beneath it. Then, in the same breath, Zeus hit the craft with a lightning bolt and thunder, Round she spun, reeling under the impact, filled with reeking brimstone, shipmates pitching out of her, bobbling round like seahawks swept along by the breakers past the trim black hull. The god cut short their journey home forever.
Which, does anybody get flashbacks to what happened after the Heliosis cattle incident? Yes, you should be getting flashbacks. Again, there's part of the fun when Odysseus is spinning total bullshit, but everybody in the audience is going, I know that reference. I understood that reference. Was this Zeus punishing the schemers? I don't know if you're so Clover. I'm not sure if you're trying to say schemers or scammers or coincidence. In the way that Odysseus is putting it, it could be left to interpretation. Like again, the thunderheads, summoning the thunderheads and lightning storms, all that, it's always attributed to Zeus. So he's just saying, well, I mean, we got hit by lightning. Could have been Zeus playing a trick. Could have been coincidence, but you know, one in general attribute it to Zeus. Thunderbringer Red, I know. Yeah, literally, you go with a live, yeah, if you were listening to a Bartos, you'd be like, I remember, it's like, oh, he's talking about the fucking cows. Yeah, I remember that bit. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's full of bullshit here, but like, oh, that's totally the cows. Yeah, like, an audience would be eating this shit up. Because remember, this was always, you know, recited, retold to an audience. They'd be eating this shit up. Meant schemers, I just can't spell. Okay, well, I will say, Clover, schemers, S-C-H-E-M-E-R-S. I know, it's got a silent H. It's one of those annoying ones. I wasn't sure. I mean, scammers was totally right as well, because he's saying this Phoenician dude was a scammer. So I was like, I'm not sure which one you're trying to say, and either technically worked in your question. But schemers with the C, E-A actually kind of, sorry, it made me laugh. I was like, I think we just tried to mix schemers and scammers, and honestly, it's not wrong. Same phrase with the substitution from heteiroi comrades to apantes olum. Ah. Interesting. Sorry, Joe, I'm an annoying audience member, can you tell? Schemers, scammers, schemers, potato, tomato. Exactly. When they fall off the ship, it's the same verse. Yeah, you can tell. This is Homer absolutely having fun. If anybody can't guess, yeah, Odysseus is having fun. Homer's having a lot of fun with this bit, which obviously is even more clear in the Greek because you see the repetition of phrases. HR to Odie. Okay, let's circle back to the moment you became a much leaner organization. Mad misreading the last one. Page people. Oh. Timid. Oh, did I? Did I really? Potato, tomato. Did I? Potatoes, potato, tomato, potato, tomato. I thought I said it right. Brain's working too fast. It's fine. Anyway, yeah. This is absolutely a bit where Homer's having fun. The audience would be eating this up. It's good shit, as I say. Even though not much is happening, yes, Odysseus is still doing this to serve a purpose. He's building a reasonable character because he's really trying to suss out just how loyal is Eumaeus, how much can I trust this guy, which he's pretty sure he can. But he lays it on a little thick. Just leave it. Don't drop the potato. It's a good source of potassium. Exactly. You misread screamers. Did I really? Schemers, scammers. Oh, screamers. Oh my god. Yeah, I have to look a lot closer. Actually, you know what? Can I make this text bigger? Possibly. Oh, I can. That actually makes my life even easier because I'm sitting far. Potassium. Potatoes. Pegtato. Pegtato. Anyway. I see what you did. Anyway, let's see here.
Not mine. Zeus himself, when I was just at the final gasp, thrust the huge mast of my dark proud vessel right into my arms so I might flee disaster. One more time. Wrapping myself around it, I was borne along by the wretched gale winds, rushed along 9 days. On the 10th, the dead of night, a shouldering breaker rolled me up along Thesprotia's beaches. There, the king of Thesprotia find on my salvation. Treated me kindly, asked for no reward at all. His own good son had found me half dead from exhaustion and the cold. He raised me up by the hand and led me home to his father's house, dressed me in cloak and shirt and decent clothes. That's where I got first wind of him, Odysseus.
First Odyssey reimagining by Odysseus himself, yeah. And also, yes, this is Pop the Phoenicians. That's definitely what we're doing here, though Nausicaa has been changed to a son, but, make it a dude so it's a little less like, yes, I found a young girl who I had to talk to while fully fucking naked. Yeah, let's skip that bit. Even though he tried to cover his manly bits. Imagining the actor who played Gibbs. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Old man Odie, I want to imagine as Gibbs and telling the story like this. Yes, except with the sea turtles. He lashed him a couple of sea turtles and made him a raft. Yeah, literally that is what Odysseus is doing here. This is literally what Odysseus is doing.
The king told me he'd hosted the man in style, befriended him on his way home to native land, and showed me all the treasure Odysseus had amassed. Bronze and gold and plenty of hard-wrought iron, enough to last a man and 10 generations of his heirs. So great the wealth stored up for him in the king's vaults. But Odysseus, he made clear, was off at the Dona then to hear the will of Zeus that rustles forth from the gods' tall leafy oak. How should he return after all years away to his own green land of Ithaca, openly or in secret? Phaedon swore to me, what's more, as the princely man poured out libations in his house. The ship's all down and the crew set to sail to take Odysseus home to native land. But he shipped me off before. A Thesprotian cutter chanced to be heading for Dulichion, rich in wheat, and he told me the crew to take me to the king, Acastus, treat me kindly too, but it pleased them more to scheme foul play against me, sink me into the very depths of pain. As soon as that ship was far off land, scudding in mid-sea, they sprang their trap. My day of slavery then and there, they stripped from my back the shirt and cloak I wore, decked me out in a new suit of clothes, all rags, ripped and filthy, the rags you see now. But then, once they'd gained the fields of Ithaca, still clear in the evening light, they lashed me fast to the rowing benches, twisted cable round me. All hands went ashore and rushed to catch their supper on the beach. But the gods themselves unhitched my knots at once with the gods' own ease. I wrapped my head in rags, slid down the gangplank, polished smooth, slipped my body into the water, not a splash, chest high, then quick, launched out with both my arms and swam away. Out in the surf in no time, clear of the crew. I clambered upland into a flowery fragrant bush and crouched there, huddling low.
Uses the Sirens episode too. Yep. He uses the Sirens episode. He's pulling from all of his adventures to spin this story.
They raised a hue and cry, wildly beat the bushes, but when it seemed no use to pursue the hunt, back they trudged again and boarded their enemy's ship. The gods hid me themselves. It's light work for them and brought me here, the homestead of a man who knows the world. So it seems to be my lot that I'll live on.
Give Odysseus cannons, please. Ooh. And you replied, Eumaeus, loyal swineherd, so much misery, friend. You've moved my heart deeply with your long tale. Such blows, such roving. But one part's off the mark. I know you'll never persuade me what you say about Odysseus. A man in your condition, who are you, I ask you, to lie for no good reason? Well, I know the truth of my good lord's return, how the gods detested him with a vengeance, never letting him go under, fighting Trojans, or die in the arms of loved ones. Once he'd wound down the loyal, long coil of war. Then all united Achaea would have raised his tomb. He'd have won his son great fame for years to come. But now, the whirlwinds have ripped him away. No fame for him. And I live here, cut off from the world with all my pigs. I never go into town unless perhaps wise Penelope calls me back, when news drops in from somewhere, There they crowd the messenger, cross-examine him, heart-sick for their long-lost lord, or all too glad to eat him out of house and home, scot-free. But I've no love for all that probing, prying. Not since the Mike totally and fooled me with his yarn. He'd killed a man, wandered over the face of the earth, stumbled onto my hut, and I received him warmly. He told me he'd seen Odysseus, lodged with King Eumaeus down in Crete, refitting his ships hard hit by gales, but he'd be home, he said, by summer or harvest time. Could saying bad things about the king of the Thesprotians lead to bad relations with them in the future, have possibly a ripple effect? Well, he didn't say anything bad about the king of the Thesprotians. He said these men were the ones who rallied against him. The king was actually great. King sent him on his way, gave him gifts. Like, the king was great. His men, unruly. He's pulling from his own crew. No, it likely wouldn't, because especially when Odysseus makes it clear to Eumaeus, hey, it's me, Odysseus. I spun you bullshit. I needed to know you could be trusted. Like, Eumaeus isn't even going to think of that story. Why every liar is from Crete? Why, yes, every liar comes from Crete. For those who don't know what we're talking about, go to the last book, the book club for book 13. We had a whole talk about that. It has to do with a logic conundrum, which is the all liars are from this idea of like all liars come from Crete. It's not a conundrum. It's a logic. Is it a conundrum? Is it a logic conundrum? I can't remember what the word I'm trying to think of is. But it is a well-known, for those who like paradox. Thank you, logic paradox. For those who like logic paradoxes and kind of puzzles, it's a very famous one. Not fallacy, but close. Yeah, paradox. It's a logic paradox, which we realized, Mariana really realized, because I totally missed it. The previous book seems to introduce one of what could be one of the earliest versions of the liar's paradox, which is related to men from Crete. And I can't believe I missed it because I'd just been reading Catabasis and the liar's paradox is brought up, and I was just like, how did I not spot this? But yes, anyway, that's from, if you go back into the book club for book 13, we talk a bit more about it. Let's see. If in epic, I don't really want to talk too much about what could be done in epic here. This is book club. Like, this really isn't supposed to relate to epic. No, it wouldn't make it better, because the whole thing with Calypso is she's monstrous and never apologizes. I don't want to soften her character and make it. But so Daniela, I appreciate the question, but really we try not during book club to ask about epic. You can wait till after when we're just kind of chatting. But we try not to talk too much about epic here because this is the Odyssey. But no, I don't think it would be better for the plot. If Hermes gave it to him, that'd be better. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to scold you. Just, no, I don't think it would be better if Calypso did it. If Hermes did it, I think it'd be okay. His hull's freighted with treasure, manned by fighting crews. Did the meter the epic was written in help storytellers remember the lines? Was that why it was written in a specific meter? It's written in that specific meter that was just sort of the meter of the epic. I bet Mariana could probably tell you even more about that. But a meter and a rhythm to things will definitely help in remembering. Anybody who's had to say, I took a Shakespeare class in high school and I had to memorize and deliver dramatically various soliloquies or monologues. And the fact that it's in iambic pentameter helps a lot, that you can get a rhythm and move with it. And again, there's almost a musical quality to that. So I do not doubt that having a meter helps in being able to remember things, especially if a line starts sounding similar to one that you've said before and you realize, oh yeah, no, it's meant to be kind of the same and repeats. But in terms of the importance of the meter, Mariana might have more to say on that than I do, because Oh, it can help. Yeah, just like in lyrics, if you think about the text as prose, it's harder to enunciate it without the rhythm. Exactly. Yeah, rhythm will definitely help. I don't think that's why it's written in that specific meter, but meter will absolutely help in remembering stuff. Again, like going into English, if you think iambic pentameter, like we can remember bits of Shakespeare as easily as we do because it really utilizes iambic pentameter incredibly well. And iambic pentameter works fabulously with English in the same way that dactylic hexameter works really well with Greek and like not really any other language, sort of Latin, but barely. And yes, that is also why we have repetition, where in the Greek, it's not even just that the meter is the same, obviously going through, it's that like he will literally said, yeah, we said this exact chunk here, we're going to paste it here because it like makes sense with the meter and also makes it easier to memorize. His hull's freighted with treasure manned by fighting crews. So you, old misery, seeing a god has led you here to me, don't try to charm me now. Don't spellbind me with your lies. Never for that will I respect you, treat you kindly. No, it's my fear of Zeus, the god of guests, and because I pity you. So basically, don't lie to me. I'm doing the moral duty here. Don't lie to me, essentially. Ooh, he got clocked.
Good God,
the crafty man pressed on.
A dark, suspicious heart you have inside you. Not even my oath can win you over, make you see the light. Come, strike a bargain. All the gods of Olympus, witness now our pact. If your master returns here to your house, dress me in shirt and cloak, and send me off to Dulichion at once, the place I long to be. But if your master doesn't return as I predict, set your men on me. Fling me off some rocky crag, so the next beggar here may just think twice before he peddles lies.
Surely, friend, the swineherd shook his head. And just think of the praise and fame I'd win among mankind, now and for all time to come, if first I took you under my roof, I treated you kindly as my guest, then cut you down and robbed you of your life. How keen I'd be to say my prayers to Zeus! But it's high time for a meal. I hope the men will be home at any moment, so we can fix a tasty supper in the lodge. Which is him going, nice try, but I'm not violating Xenia. Ithaca may be falling out of joint, but I follow the proper rules here. As host and guest confided back and forth, the herdsmen came in, driving their hogs up close, penning sows in their proper sties for the night, squealing for all their worth, shut inside their yard. And the good swineherd shouted to his men, bring in your fattest hog. I'll slaughter it for our guest from far abroad. We'll savor it ourselves. All too long we've sweated over these white-tusked boars, our wretched labor, while others wolf our work down, free of charge. Calling out as he split up kindling now with a good sharp axe, and his men hauled in a tusker 5 years old, rippling fat, and stood him steady by the hearth. Was Odysseus testing him with the deal to violate Xenia? Yeah, a little bit. He was testing him a little bit. Like, just how fast do you hold to your morals? Like, just how loyal are you? Like, how ready are you to take a deal with somebody else? And Eumaeus is standing firm. He's like, no, I can't be bought, basically. You can't buy me with anything. He goes, I hold, like, we are in a society. And again, the thing, like, let's, enjoy the sound of music, Drake Ellis. Enjoy sexy Christopher Plummer ripping apart Nazi flags. So, like, let's remember again the world of ancient Greece. The only thing that really held the Greeks together, recognizing themselves as Greeks when each city-state and each kingdom, is really a kingdom unto themselves, is that they share a common language. Now, when you go even later on, Herodotus will say the works of Hesiod and Homer, and we worship the same gods, and even with slight, localization differences, we pretty much worship the same way. That ties them together. So he's just saying, no, we're in a society. Again, the one moral code and constant in this is Xenia. And it's like, and Odysseus is going, yeah, you're loyal and you talk good talk. And he's continually testing him. He wants to see if at any point this is a guy who can be bought off. Because remember, we're about to do a real risky plan of sneak into my own palace and kill everybody. But this is also a, like, can you be bought in any way? And Eumaeus is saying, nah, we live in a society, man. I cannot be fucking bought. Okay? My loyalty is strong and firm. Hans Solo, great name. The Fitzgerald translation is beautiful, very poetic. Yes, we are doing Iliad after the Odyssey. We'll be using the Fagles translation, but Fitzgerald is a great translation of the Iliad. So yes, we will be doing Iliad after Odyssey, which is going to be 6 million terrible ways to die in ancient Greece. And pick your favorite war criminal. So they're all awful. It's going to be great. We live in a society. Yeah, that's what I joke. That's sort of what Eumaeus is doing. But really the big thing is Odysseus is going, can this man be bought in any way? Is there anything that can make him, waver? And Eumaeus is like, nah. Yes, Lawrence of Arabia did do an Odyssey translation. Mean girls, but at war. It's kind of the Iliad too. Diomedes is awesome. Yes, Han Solo, you have great taste. Diomedes is so cool. He's the dude. Like, we say Heracles is the guy. Diomedes is the dude. Like, he's probably the greatest hero after Heracles is Diomedes. Like, he's the GOAT. Ooh, yeah, no, enjoy. Fitzgerald does beautifully poetic translations, both of the Odyssey and the Iliad. His translations really embrace the poetry of it all. The only reason I didn't go for it is because it is so poetic. I found Fagles is a little clearer and easier, for those who might struggle with some of the poetry of it all. But yeah, Achilles does wish he was Diomedes. He so wishes he was Diomedes. Real people know Diomedes is the GOAT. His ego allowed it. Peg is slayer of carrots in our hearts. True. Let's see. We killing the good hog here. Which again, this is great Xena. He's like, you know what? I have a guest from far abroad who just told me this incredible tale. Slaughter the good pig. Like, Diomedes truly never gets the flowers he deserves. Let's say from laymen and lay people. Like, classicists will tell you how amazing, and like classical historians will tell you, like, no, Diomedes is the fucking dude. Like, Diomedes is amazing. It's the people who, like, really don't know and don't read will all just think it's all about Achilles. And I'm like, nah. Diomedes was cooler. Way cooler. Oh, is my mic crackling? Sorry, it might be because I'm hitting it. It might be hitting against my shirt. Sorry. Let's see. We haul in the tusker. Rippling fat stood him steady by the hearth. Also, my voice is like you're getting a lot of vocal fry from my voice as well, so sorry if you're getting that as well. Diomedes, when come at me, bro, yeah, to multiple gods while Achilles is fighting a river. It's true. Oh, Little Riot, you're here. We're still reading, so you've come in good time. The swineherd, soul of virtue, did not forget the gods. He began the rite by plucking tufts from the porker's head, threw them into the fire, and prayed to all the powers. Bring him home, our wise Odysseus, home at last. Then, raising himself full length with an oak log he'd left unsplit, he clubbed and stunned the beast, and it gasped out its life. The men slashed its throat, singed the carcass, quickly quartered it all, and the swineherd, cutting first strips for the gods from every limb, spread them across the thighs, wrapped in sleek fat, and sprinkling barley over them. Flung them on the fire. They sliced the rest into pieces, pierced them with skewers, broiled them up to a turn, and pulling them off the spits, piled the platters high. The swineherd standing up to share the meat, his sense of fairness perfect. Why call them porkers this time? Good question, Clover. I asked Mariana, do we have a different word to describe the pig here versus, calling him a tusker versus a porker? I'm assuming that's what you mean in comparison to, Clover. Maybe it is because they're cooked. Well, picking test from the porker said, no, he's still alive at that point. Good question. I turned to Mariana to see if there's a difference in the Greek. This could just be a quirk of translation, but I don't know if in the Greek we specify different words. Porker does specifically mean a pig raised for food. Oh, that's an interesting thing. I actually did not know that. Huh. Good question. I still turn to Mariana if there's... Mariana, yes. Are they different? Are the words different in the Greek between when we talk about the men hauling in a tusker, which I'm assuming means they're saying, hey, we're bringing in a male pig? Before it was the term for... Yeah, with the smaller ones, right? Yeah, so I know with the smaller one he brought in, it was a piglet because it's like a snack. And now we know. Like cows versus cattle versus beef. Oh, this is all very interesting language fun facts. And also, this is why we all again say thank you, Mariana, for being our resident Greek expert. Interesting, interesting. Yes, these are good fun facts. These are actual fun facts. This is kind of cool stuff. Rip piglet, snacks for the men. The swineherd standing up to share the meat, his sense of fairness perfect. Oh, some languages will have different words for raw versus cooked rice. What? That's cool. I like that a lot. 100-acre words. What's almost nearly, oh my god. Winnie the Pooh reference. Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh Bear. Carved it all out in 7 equal portions. So if we have Eumaeus, he's got what, 3 men under him? Odysseus, 1 for the gods, and now a 7th, which is important. Or maybe he's got 4 men under him, whatever the case. 1 he set aside, lifting up a prayer to the forest nymphs and Hermes, Maia's son, and the rest he handed out to each man in turn. But to Odysseus he presented the boar's long loin, and the cut of honor cheered his master's heart. The man for all occasions thanked his host.
I pray, Eumaeus, you'll be as dear to Father Zeus as you are to me, a man in my condition. You honor me by giving me your best.
The OG reckon for souvlakia. Yeah, we are literally getting like the OG recipe for souvlakia. So souvlakia, for those who don't know, is literally like meat. Like you might call them shish kebabs. It's meat cut up and on sticks. And now they also have very great marinade, which one day I will get the marinade from my dad. He's got the family souvlakia marinade. And you have to usually, if you do it in marinade, like you got to let it marinate for a while. And it's delicious. Oh, souvlakia, my love, my light. Now the name drop. Yeah, I know, right? And so anyone who's curious why we do the bit for the forest nymphs and Hermes, so what we're showing is that, you know, you always set a portion aside for the gods. In this case, Eumaeus is setting aside something that would be for a, settings one for the local cult of wood nymphs, of wood nymphs. We talked about how, oh, you're in a grove that, you know, usually has nymphs, so local cults, usually for groves, fresh springs, what have you. We talked about this as being common in the previous book, and also another fair share for Hermes. And the reason we do it for Hermes is because Hermes is the patron god of herdsmen. So he's setting it out like, yep, local cult, Hermes, because I'm a herdsman. He does herds of pigs, keeping it all in play, setting out proper portions for everybody. Gotta love meat on stick. Meat on stick is always great, okay? You actually let the marinade marinate. It's true. It's true. Meat on stick is yummy. I'm absolutely going to be getting a gyro after this, but like a pork souvlakia gyro. Or a chicken souvlakia gyro. Anyway, sorry. Now that I know what I'm going to be eating after this. Greek food for me. I've got a reasonably really good Greek restaurant nearby too, so that makes me happy. Lifting up a prayer. And Hermes. Yes. You replied in kind. Please tell me you put tzatziki in. Hell yeah, I put tzatziki in. Now, I also need to get the family recipe on the tzatziki, but it has like 6 billion cloves of garlic. We do not shrimp on the garlic and our tzatziki. Oh, yeah. Would Eumaeus get in trouble with the suitors for having the good porker for himself and his guests rather than serving it to the suitors if they found out because of his status as a slave? There's not much they can do about it, though, because they are not head of house. So they'd be pissed, but there's like, what are they going to do? Complain to Telemachus and to Penelope? Well, then he'd just bring in his guest and say, this was my guest, I was entertaining him, let him tell you the story he told me, and you tell me if I was in the wrong. And if Telemachus and Penelope were to say you were in the wrong, yes, then he'd be in the wrong. But likely, like, the suitors will be butthurt if they found out, but what are they going to do? Tzatziki without too much garlic is like an omelet without eggs. My translator here goes on a 2-page recognition critique to a scholar. Oh my god, Fagles absolutely goes after Stanford in one of the footnotes in here too, where he's like, Stanford said this, but that pointed out the name drop, but with an imprecise explanation. Mariana, please, to the best of your ability, I know you've got your wrist. Please take care of your wrist. For those who don't know, Mariana has tendonitis in her right wrist, so we are trying to think of her wrist. The first time Odysseus calls Eumaeus by name, because he wouldn't know that up until this point. For those who may not have clocked, he did say, he said, I pray Eumaeus, you'll be as dear to Father Zeus. When Eumaeus has not given him his name yet. So it's like, how do you know my name? Which makes things interesting. But what's also interesting is that Eumaeus hasn't seemed to clock it yet. I've got 9 fingers left. Yeah, the likelihood of Penelope or Telemachus punishing him for something like this, low. Very low. I'm getting too much of the good stuff anyway, I know, right? Tendonitis is an absolute bitch, and we want Mariana to heal best that she can properly. But yes, for those who did not realize, this was the first time that Odysseus has ever used Eumaeus' name, and as far as we know, Eumaeus has not used it and told Odysseus who he is. Even Odysseus has not given him his character's name. He says, who I'm the son of. But I haven't given you my name. We haven't done names yet, so. Stanford says now it's the time that Odysseus hears it from the other one, so he learns and uses it, which is an imprecise explanation because we have not said explicitly the others use his name. I'm side-eyeing Stanford with bagels, and your translator as well, Mariana. Everybody, we side-eye Stanford. Who are you making these strange explanations up? I'm pretty sure, where does he talk about Stanford? Yeah, he talks about Stanford. Yeah, with regards to the why we use the second person with regards to Eumaeus. Reality, it's assumed Odysseus already recognized Eumaeus, but had to keep the cover up so he cannot call him by name. Otherwise, Eumaeus would go, how do you know my name? Yeah, which is like the logical understanding. Stanford? You didn't even go here. Literally, though. That's what we're doing with Stanford. Who are you? Didn't even go here. I love that we now have 2 different translators who've kind of looked at Stanford a little side-eyed. What's with all the injuries in book club? I know. Ankles, wrists, concussions. We need to be careful. Everybody needs to stop getting hurt in book club. It's all the Greek men. They're coming at us with their big Greek feelings. He burned choice parts for the gods who never die, and pouring glistening wine in a full libation, placed the cup in his guest's hands. Odysseus, raider of cities, Teleportos. But now that the others work with him, the name would have been dropped, and so and down he sat to his own share. Mesaulius served them bread, a man the swineherd purchased for himself in his master's absence, alone, apart from his queen or old Laertes. Bought him from Taphians, bartered his own goods. They reached out for the spread that lay at hand, and yes, the slave has a slave. Again, the societal standing of slaves was like so radically different in Bronze Age Greece to how we would think of it with regard to like 1800s US. I think is what a lot of people look at. But in the ancient times, slaveception, literally, slavery was in a lot of these cultures very different from the way we see it now. Jinx. Let's see. They reached out for the spread that lay at hand, and when they'd put aside desire for food and drink, Mesaulius cleared the things away, and now, content with bread and meat, they made for bed at once. Come here, pet. Come uppies. There we go. I know. Yeah, you wanted uppies? I'm sorry. What? You want to settle? Settle, please, my darling. There. Is that better? There we go. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I know. Peg uppies, exactly. A foul night. Wasn't it more like just employment? Kind of to a degree, but you were purchased. I mean, it's kind of weird to purchase a person. And also you could be sold to in enslavement, after you've been, picked up by pirates or in a war or whatever. So it's not really just employment, especially if you're a woman as well. Like if you're taken as a war prize, Slaves could be bought also, yes, to be either servants or to be concubines, and you didn't really get a choice. For this topic being brought up, we'll see. We shall see. But wouldn't that be rude? He hasn't introduced himself. Book club is cursed. Oh no, don't injure yourself. We need to stop with the injuries. A foul night came on, the dark of the moon, and Zeus reigned from dusk to dawn, and a sudden west wind raged. Odysseus spoke up now, keen to test the swineherd, as if he hasn't already this whole time. Would he take his cloak off, hand it to his guest, or at least tell one of his men to do the same? He cared for the stranger so, who ventured now.
Listen, Eumaeus, and all your comrades here, allow me to sing my praises for a moment.
Oh, gee. Odysseus, sing your own praises? I'm shocked. Could you free yourself, though? From being a slave? I don't think that was possible because you were always tied to the palace in some way. Because again, the distinction of a slave versus a freeman was you're being tied to usually a palace or a noble person. So I don't think there was usually a way. You'd probably just enter being a slave to someone else. And you might say if you're a concubine, maybe you'd get treated really well, but you're still a slave. Was there any honor at stake for knowingly selling slaves to bad masters? No. And here's the thing. Usually, it was let's for example look at Euryclea, as I call her, the housekeeper, who we know was bought by Laertes when she was quite young. And he probably also wanted to tap that, but he never did because his wife went, "Oh no, you fucking don't," and he smartly listened to his wife. He bought her, and her father sold her. Like, he bought her from her father to come be in the palace, live and work there and all of that. Now, the other incidents would be something like war prizes, or if you've been a victim of piracy. Now, a pirate's not going to care. They want money. You're not usually going to know these people. And this is where we get into, I don't know. I will honestly say I don't know. Where if you are someone and some guy says, I want to buy your daughter and bring her to the palace, especially when you're not a noble person yourself. Like, none of these people, unless, again, you were taken as a war prize or taken as a victim of piracy, these people aren't of noble birth, because that would not be happening between noble families. Do you say no? Like, what would be your reasoning for saying no? Again, it seems a lot of these slaves were women or even men. You're being offered usually a good life in some way. So no, there wouldn't be, but the idea of selling to a bad master, your job as a slave, like, you usually have a job as a slave. Like, again, Eumaeus is a slave, right? He's a doulos. But he's a doulos who's a swineherd. There's Melanthius, who's a goat herder. You have Euryclea, who's the housekeeper, and like all of these, like, it is, you could say, a social distinction in that there's really not too much you can do at that point. Oh my gosh, we're still arguing about Stanford. Stanford is faulty. Stanford doesn't go here. You would have never. Agamemnon wouldn't be gloating. He would be sorry for Odysseus in the same way that Odysseus is sorry for Agamemnon. Agamemnon wouldn't gloat. I know Agamemnon gets a really bad rap, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't gloat. Like, nobody would be gloating over something like that. Anyway.
Say it's the wine that leads me on. The wild wine that sets the wisest man to sing at the top of his lungs and laugh like a fool. Drives a man to dancing. Even tempts him to blurt out stories better never told. But now that I'm sounding off, I can't hold back. To make me young again, the strength inside me steady as a rock. just as I was the day we sprang a sudden ambush against the Trojans. Odysseus led the raid with Atreus' son, Menelaus. I was third in command. They'd chosen me themselves. Once we'd edged up under the city's steep ramparts, crowding the walls, but sinking into the thick brake, the reeds and marshy flats, huddling under our armor, there we lay, and a foul night came on. The north wind struck, freezing cold, and down from the skies the snow fell like frost, packed hard, the rims of our shields armored round with ice. There, all the rest of the men wore shirts and cloaks and, hunching shields over their shoulders, slept at ease. Not I. I'd left my cloak at camp when I set out. Idiot. Never thinking it might turn cold.
Could selling a family member be also been a way to ensure that person gets fed when its household was too small to sustain them? Yeah, definitely. A lot of the society was predominantly agricultural. Say you're not having a good harvest and the king comes down and says, hey, your kid looks like they could be useful to me in the palace. I'll buy them. Yeah, heck yeah. Definitely. Essentially you also preserve the bloodline in that way, because then if they live long enough to get to adulthood, they can marry and continue the bloodline. Yeah, definitely could be a way to ensure the person is fed and housed and clothed and able to survive. Definitely. I love Mariana. Yeah. Also, we love the wine. I love him blaming the wine. Remember, wine gets blamed for many things, and wine ties back to many things. So many.
But yes, apparently, never thinking it might turn cold. So I joined in with just the shield on my back and a shining waist guard. But then,
could selling a family member earn the ire of Hera? No. Not at all. Because, okay, so here's the thing. Again, I want to point out that slavery, at least in terms of the society of the Bronze Age Greeks, is very different from the way we think of this topic, especially with regards to, say, like the 1800s US. Like, put the horror of that, really, the rightful stigma of all of that, put that aside. Completely different society, different viewpoints. This was very normal. Absolutely normalized. And so the questions are going to... No, these are good questions. And again, there's only so much I can answer, but it was very normalized. Again, the societal difference between a slave and a freeman was whether or not you were attached to a palace or to, or a noble. So like the societal distinction was pretty minor. I mean, again, slaves could own and work their own land. They can marry with freemen. So like, you're not going to earn the ire for that when societally it is kind of a pretty relatively minor distinction between you and the average, air quotes, peasant. Like there's not so much shame associated with being a slave. It was pretty normalized. Again, it depends. If you are captured in war and a war prize, if you've been sold via piracy, yeah, you've got the stigma of that. But just being not a freeman itself, like bare bones definition, not so much. Now, how you became so, that would totally suck. Especially if you are brought in as a war prize or you're brought in as victim of piracy. Like, yeah, that's, you might not be viewed within others on your level the same way. Although, especially if you're taken as a war prize and you were formerly from a noble family, say someone like Cassandra or Andromache, you would be expected to reasonably get a certain degree of treatment, but only to a degree. The Greeks have the equivalent of ius vitae necisque. I say, trying to remember what that means. Oh, the right of life and death. Oh, yeah, the patria potestas. That's a good question. I actually don't remember. I mean, I was going to say, I'm like, it is a Roman concept. Did some version of it exist in Greece? Maybe, but I'm actually not entirely sure. That's a really good question, Mariana. Oh, the pater familias. I was going to say, you say pater familias and you get me there, yeah. The pater potestas, pater familias, yeah. Well, yeah, once I saw that, I knew what you meant. I don't know if they had their own equivalent of that. I believe so. I mean, the father is the head of the house, and he is the one who makes the decision. So, like, even when Euryclea was bought, it was Laertes went to her father. He doesn't go to her, he goes to her father, and he makes the decision. So, yeah, kind of to a degree, there's an element of the pater potestas. Ius vitae, the juice of life. Timotheos. Thank you. Yeah, not really coded in law, and I think part of that is because, again, like, everything was so localized compared to Rome was very centralized. Like, they put down a centralized kind of codified law. The Greeks, I mean, in the Bronze Age, I don't know, like, getting into the classical era, I bet there were city-states that had that, something like that codified into law, but I'm not entirely sure. Again, it would sort of depend on the city-state, too. Like, what do you view as a citizen and everything else? Like, you have to go city-state by city-state. But I bet some city-states totally had something like that. But definitely not centralized the way that it was in Rome. Which would explain the whole Iphigenia. I mean, yeah, it explains Iphigenia. I mean, it explains Persephone. Because the whole thing in that is that Hades went to Zeus. Zeus in that version is Persephone's father. He went to her father. That's something I always like to bring up to people where I'm like, it makes a lot of sense when we consider the father is usually making the decision for the daughter and all of that. So yeah, it does make Agamemnon make even more sense. If they've got kind of their version of the pater potestas, which is essentially, for those who don't know, like, father's the head of the house. The father can kind of do what he wants with his family and especially his children, like his daughters and all that. So yeah, it makes sense. I think it actually, I've got to assume they had some version of it. It just makes sense for a society that the ancient Greeks were, and always kind of have been, it just makes sense that like various city-states would have their versions of that. I mean, there's a lot of misogyny. Oh, I mean, the misogyny in the ancient world in general. Yeah. Ancient Greece, absolutely. I mean, in various city-states, it could be better or worse depending what city-state you're in, but yeah. I mean, it's not even just misogyny. They were, there you go, it's part of the times. Sadly, part of the times. They were very paternalistic. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but close enough. Where was I? Here we go. But then at last, the night's third watch, the stars just... Patriarchy, thank you, that's the word I was looking for. Patriarchal. The stars just wheeling down. I muttered into his ear, Odysseus right beside me, nudging him with an elbow. He perked up at once. Royal son of Laertes, Odysseus, full of tactics. I'm not long for the living. The cold will do me in, see. I've got no cloak. Some fool spirits fooled me. I came out half-dressed. Now there's no escape. I hadn't finished. A thought flashed in his mind. No one could touch the man at plots or battles. Okay, Odysseus, patting your own back. We see you. Shh, he is back. Odysseus had a plan. One of our fighters over there might hear you. Then he propped his head on his forearm, calling out, Friends, wake up. I slept in a god sent down a dream. It warned that we're too far from the ships, exposed. Yeah, Odysseus, even disguised, really loves sharing how great he is. It's true. Go, someone. Tell Agamemnon, our field marshal. He might rush reinforcements from the beach. Toa, son of Andremon, sprang up at once, flung off his purple cloak, and ran to the ships, while I, bundling in his wrap, was glad at heart. Till dawn rose on her golden throne once more. To make me young again. The strength inside me steady as a rock. One of the swineherds here would lend a rap for love of a good soldier, respect as well. Now they spurn me, dressed in filthy rags. And you replied, Eumaeus, loyal swineherd. Now that was a fine yarn, you told, old-timer. Not without point. Not without profit either. You won't want for clothes or anything else. As do a worn-out traveler come for help. Not for tonight, at least. Tomorrow morning, you'll have to flap around in rags again. Here we've got no store of shirts and cloaks. No changes. Just one wrap per man, that's all. But just you wait till Odysseus's dear son comes back. That boy will deck you out in a cloak and shirt and send you off wherever your heart desires." With that, he rose to his feet and laid out a bed by the fire, throwing over it skins of sheep and goats, and down Odysseus lay. Eumaeus flung on his guest the heavy, flaring cloak he kept in reserve to wear when winter brought some wild storm. So here Odysseus slept, and the young hand slept beside him. Not the swineherd, not his style to bed indoors apart from his pigs. He geared up to go outside, and it warmed Odysseus's heart. Eumaeus cared so much for his absent master's goods. First, over his broad shoulders, he slung a whetted sword, wrapped himself in a cloak stitched tight to block the wind, and, adding a cape, the pelt of a shaggy, well-fed goat. He took a good sharp lance to fight off men and dogs. Then out he went to sleep, where his white-tusked boars had settled down for the night, just under a jutting crag that broke the north wind's blast. And that is book 14. Again, seems like nothing much happened, but it was all one kind of big test of Eumaeus. Odysseus beginning the plan of sussing stuff out. He's saying, who's loyal, who's not, who do I trust? Beginning this plan, we introduce Eumaeus. Again, we're going to get his full backstory in book 15. Excuse you. What does he do when it rains? Eumaeus, you'd pull the cloak tighter. Really all you can do. Umbrellas aren't a thing. Maybe he'd, but it makes me think of this phrase we had in Marching Band where it's like, so I was, in uni, it was in the Marching Royal Dukes, so the MRDs were like, MRDs, what do we do when it rains? We get wet. All you can do. I mean, woodwinds would put away their instruments, obviously, but we marched in the rain. So it's like, what's he going to do when it rains? Well, he's going to get wet. Got nothing he can do. Eumaeus gears up for war to guard the pigs. I know. Can't skin a sheep for extra cloak. Well, he doesn't have sheep. He's got pigs. And their wool is worth quite a bit. And he'd have to be careful because he would probably have to get permission and stuff like that. And it is raining at this point. Like, we know a storm has blown in and it's nasty. It's like, but what did he do? He did good Xenia. He gave it to his guest. So again, this is all continuing in the world of Xenia. All the good Xenia. Any more questions for book 14? Or 1 through 14, I guess, even so. Since not too much happened in this round. Odysseus wouldn't skin a sheep. He learned his lesson with Polyphemus. No, they did still slaughter the bellwether ram. R.I.P. Bill, composer of great music. Rest in sheep, Bill. But yeah, in terms of having extra clothing and all of that, like beyond just your one shirt or whatever, I mean, that's a sign of wealth and status. Let's remember, he is still a Tholos. He would really only have probably the one kit. Do we know what happens to, if anything, to Eumaeus after the Odyssey? We have no idea. Presumably he just sort of lives the rest of his life out on Ithaca. We really have no idea, so far as I know. He's important here as the loyal, extremely loyal servant to Odysseus, but yeah, basically continued work until he died. We really don't know anything else about him. So you can kind of just imagine he had a good life. He was extremely loyal to Odysseus. He fights with Odysseus to rid the suitors out, so he would have been rewarded for that. Easy question before inspired me a possible explanation for the Eumaeus late name drop and the weird addressing by Homer. What you got, Mariana? And again, take care of your wrist. What you got with 9 fingers? Wait, 9? Well, what you got with, basically half, one wrist down. I'm curious now. While Mariana types that out, and we will give her time to do it. There's no rush. Any other questions? There we go. What if Homer addressing Eumaeus directly is foreshadowing Odysseus addressing him directly? That would make sense. That would be interesting. But then I have to wonder again with relation to the Iliad, how does that play? Because again, if it's a quirk he uses in the Iliad, you kind of have to look at the two going, what's the reasoning for it in the Iliad? Aw. Thank you, Clover. We love having you, Clover. Clover, king of great questions. Oh, thank you, Clover. I'm so glad that you love book club. I love doing it, even when I do voices that are not the favorite for my throat. That was a mistake. That's okay. I may have miscalculated. But yay, we love book club. Book club is a fun time. Finger hearts for Clover. No, for real, Clover, king of questions. Clover always comes in with great questions. Tons of them. Clover the clever. Did Odysseus actually reveal himself to Eumaeus? He will. He has not officially done so yet, but he will. Again, we're going to spend some more time with Eumaeus because Telemachus hasn't even come back yet, and we need Telemachus to come back and all of that before we even head towards the palace. Yeah.
Where's Rachel? I'm Batman.
Yeah. Clover does have his epithet. He's Clover the clever. So I say, Clover, king of questions. Oh God, no, my Latin lesson. Hikinke. Uh-oh, that's a word I don't. I recognize. Hold on, we already have a word that I don't recognize. Oh no. Oh no. Hikinke fori semper Eumaeus habitabat. An modo hic versabatur dum sues pabulabantur impratis. There's a word here I don't recognize. Right. Oh, okay, so that's what that means. So asking, did Eumaeus always live here, or is he just here while the pigs are feeding in the fields? So, like, is this Eumaeus's house, or does he only stay here when the pigs are, like, feeding in the fields? This does seem to be Eumaeus's home. He's been gifted or been given essentially this home to him, I believe if not by Laertes, then by Odysseus. Like, he's been given this home, this plot of land, and all of that to work, but he does also care for all the pigs and stuff here. Now, he's not initially from Ithaca, so there is that. But again, we're going to get that in the next book. But you caught me with Hikinke. I could not remember that one. I was like, what is that one? Timotheus. All the others I was pretty much getting, but that one was throwing me a little bit. Hikine. No wonder. He mentioned Dilucianus rich in wheat when he was talking about the Theos Proteans. Has this not helped in identifying where it is in the present day? No, because we're not even, no. So good question, Agnes. But so the problem is that we are in the, is a great question. Cover this in 15. In terms of as in where is Eumaeus from? Yes, we're doing that in 15. When Eumaeus gives us his backstory, we'll talk more about that. That is a very good question because it ties into like his position. Even though he is a Tolos, he has an interesting position within that, in the household where he's at. So that's definitely, that is absolutely the Eumaeus timeline we're going to do in 15. But as for figuring out where everything is, when it comes to Western Greece, especially the geography of Western Greece, Homer is not the best. So it's like nowadays we're not even sure if really when he talks about Ithaca he meant like Ithaca, the modern day island of Ithaca. Like his understanding of the Western geography of Greece is pretty sketchy at best. Just kind of hysterical. Oh, we don't mind if it makes you type less in chat, Sarah. I mean, Sarah S. I'm seeing too many names at once. It's, I know that there are definitely people who work on little projects and craft and stuff. In the backstory for Eumaeus, he's quite shrewd. Trust me, we will get his backstory and his timeline in the next book. What little we know of Eumaeus comes from what he will tell us in book 15. Was Homer really American then? Lol. No, he was just from Eastern Greece, likely, and so that's why his knowledge of the geography there is better than the knowledge of the geography out west. He lived in Springfield. Oh my god. Cleaned your entire kitchen. Were you doing a deep clean? Because, man, we've been going for a couple hours. You must be doing a deep clean of your kitchen. Or your kitchen is very big. Very nice. Anxiety tea leaves. Somebody who likes cleaning, I approve. Homer, he doesn't go there. Oh, no. Make sure you get your homework done. Yeah, we still don't really know, because they'll mention these islands, but if those islands aren't named that anymore and we don't have any reference for if a name got changed or something, we still don't know. And again, Homer, besides the fact that a lot of the places Odysseus goes to in the Odyssey, like, don't exist. Yeah, his understanding of Western Greek geography is sketchy at best. Oh, you finished before the end of the first stream. Oh. I was like, I thought you meant you just finished. I was like, oh my god. His kingdom is fine. They still have a king. He's probably got an heir and a spare. Sure, he's not that concerned. Which heir and a spare was kind of the name of the game for a good while. Homer calls the Nile the river Egypt, so don't take directions of geography lessons. No, really, do not take geography lessons from Homer. You will be led astray. You will be so led astray. It's like, oh, you'll realize, oh, I should have taken the right at Albuquerque. You're going to be like, ah, crap. You're going to be blown further off course than Odysseus. Homer always taking that wrong turn at Albuquerque. Geography for Homer is very much a suggestion. Very much so. Yeah, considering the maps from the time, you almost don't blame the dude. It's like, how reliable were his maps? The Odyssey is actually just Homer lost in Greece. Oh my gosh. Any more questions with regards to books 1 to 14? Otherwise, I will open the floor for, random questions, discussion, all of that. Homer is the Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz, pointing both ways, yeah. Now we know why Odysseus got lost, lol. But last call for Odyssey questions before I just kind of open it to, we chat and hang. You can ask random questions, what have you. The Odyssey is Homer's long explanation of why he won't come visit. That's good. That's good. Oh, medieval art of exotic animals. Yeah, it sure is something. All right, I'm assuming we have no more questions related specifically to the Odyssey or books 1 to 14. I'm still at the name thing. Izzy, what name thing? Before I close the floor, I want to make sure this isn't a question with regard to the Odyssey. Oh, the Eumaeus name drop, yeah. Are even the suitors None of the suitors are practicing good Xenia. Agnes. None of them are practicing good Xenia. None. Did we talk about Odysseus? No, we did not, actually, which is on me. We did not talk about Odysseus. We should. Agnes. Let's remember, Agnes. None of the suitors are practicing good Xenia. They're all practicing bad Xenia. Every single one. Agnes. Yeah, if a suitor practiced Xenia, they're not there anymore. They left. Okay, Odysseus, who I missed if Fagel says the name or not. He does say it, but I totally blew past it and didn't, like, write any notes on it, which is on me. He is the grandfather of Odysseus on his father's side. So this is Laertes' father. He has his only son, who is Laertes, who has his only son, who is Odysseus, and then Odysseus has his only son, well, his only lawful son, Telemachus. Yeah, don't move, I have my spray bottle ready. We all knew what you were trying for, Agnes. So, Odysseus, a lot of what we know about Odysseus, I think beyond that comes from like Scholias. I think Ovid wrote, yeah, Ovid calls him a son of Zeus, I think. Actually, I think even a Scholia does that too. But Aristotle calls him something else, a son of someone else. So his parentage kind of shifts and depends on who you read, but he is the paternal grandfather of Odysseus, whereas we know the maternal grandfather is Autolycus. So he's got some pretty wild, lineage that Odysseus comes from. To be true. Lawful son, does that mean Odie had bastard sons? Is it? Yeah, he had sons with Circe, according to Hesiod. He had 3 with Circe. 3 children. I think they were meant to all be sons, if I recall correctly. And then if in the Telegony, Telegonus is a son of Odysseus and Circe, because these are essentially, you could say, bastard children. They are not his lawful children. Like, they are not going to inherit his throne or his estate or anything else like that. That all goes to Telemachus. Cephalus, yes, that's who Aristotle says. Which is like he sleeps with a bear. It's very strange. Aristotle did something very weird. So I was gonna say, yeah, if we want to talk weird myth stories, you have Cephalus, who gets told by an oracle to sleep with like the first female he finds, and the first female he finds is a bear. So he literally bangs a bear. And it's weird. It's very, very weird. I mean, the bear then turns into a human, but it's still weird. Like, again, Greek mythology gets weird. It gets so weird. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's weird. And that's how Odysseus is created, born. He bangs a what? Nope. Yeah, you heard that right. That's Aristotle. He cites a myth where that is, but I don't know another source that does that one, but I could be wrong. Granted, I always say that and then it'll turn out like Apollodorus wrote it. I'm like, it's been so long since I read the Bibliotheca, okay? A bear of a man, sure. A she-bear, yeah. Who then turned into a human woman and bore him Odysseus. So, Odysseus has some wild parentage no matter which way you swing it, whether he's a son of Zeus or whether he's the son of a bear, literally. Woo! Could be because she's a minor goddess. No, she's literally just a bear. It's not a minor goddess, it's just a bear. I don't know, man, okay? Look, the Greeks did get weird and freaky with animals at times, okay? In their myths. And then those who've been in the Discord know my absolutely off-color jokes involving goats and sheep, and I will not tell them here because they are not appropriate, and I've told them once in the Discord and never again. Who looks at a bear like that? It's literally because he got told by an oracle, if you want to have like a son or whatever, you got to sleep with the first female you find. And he's like, well, it is a female. I don't know. Is that what the oracle meant? Yeah. I thought it was the fun fact of the only son. Oh, the only son curse. Yeah, but it's not like officially a curse though. They're just part of like they all just happen to have only one son. That is part of why we bring up Odysseus. He has only one son who is Laertes, who has only one son who's Telemachus, who's Odysseus, who has only Odysseus has more than one son, canonically. So it's kind of like, is it really a curse, or it's just they only happen to have one son? But also, again, Laertes sires Odysseus' sister. So it's very interesting. Only in the mist would you not just immediately get mauled. I know. Peg, you're huffing and... yeah, I know. I'm huffing along with you, Peg. Not Odyssey canon. Odyssey canon, though. It's never explicitly stated in the Odyssey, correct? As far as I remember. What? Well, the thing is that the Odyssey doesn't exist in a vacuum. So let's remember, the Odyssey does not exist in a vacuum. And also, Hesiod and Homer are writing it like the same time, and Hesiod's saying, hey, he had 3 sons with Circe. So, I mean, unless you start getting and splitting hairs saying, oh, well, clearly it's you only have one lawful son, but that's not specifically the way it is said. So, didn't Zeus curse one of Artemis's friends, Deboincaber? Is that the Ursa Major, Ursa Minor thing? It sounds familiar. Yeah, just because we don't like it doesn't mean it didn't happen, pretty much. Yeah, so remember, the Odyssey didn't happen in a vacuum. I know a lot of us would love to not think of things like the Telegony or the like, but they are canon. They are, like, again, the Greek mythology, because it's not centralized and is highly localized, has lots of variations. So you can't ignore the fact that he, according to multiple sources, had other sons, just not with Penelope. This is how the Minotaur was conceived? Yeah, it's her with a cow. It's weird. Weird that it happened twice. This gives a new interpretation to legendary. I am confused, but okay. Without counting the Telegony, because of the plot holes, does the only son curse be possible? You mean like if you just bypass an entire piece of canon that's being written down kind of around the same time? No, because you still have Hesiod. Hesiod says he had 3 sons with Circe. 3, count them. No, and again, this whole idea of the only son curse, it's not. They just happen to only have one son. I don't think it's an official. Hold on. I now need to check because I was always under the impression it's not an official curse. It's just they happened to only have one son. It's almost like a coincidence. And probably not that unusual when you consider how dangerous childbirth in general and pregnancy are in general. Like, it doesn't seem that strange. Yes, you would try to have more. You're not guaranteed. The give me sirens and a cyclops, but... Well, yeah, sirens feature in the myth of the Golden Fleece. The Cyclops aren't generally monsters. They're just there. They exist. So it's not, again, it's not a curse. As far as I know. Hold on. I'm trying to find where this whole thing... Mariana, maybe you can help me out. What source tells us that Zeus made Arcesius's line one of only one, like an only son line, where they would only have one son? Because the thing is that, like, if that's a source, I don't remember what it is. Wait a minute. This is actually, I think, from the Odyssey. Oh my god, my head is... Can we tell my brain is... Hold on, we might be skipping ahead here. I have to actually look at book 16 for a second. Yes, it is referenced in the Odyssey, isn't it? Sorry, guys, hold on, give me a sec. a line. Zeus made our line a line of only sons. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm technically still right in that it's not a curse. It says Zeus made our line of that, but it's just saying that our line has thus far only had one son. It's not an official curse. We treat it like it's a curse, but it's not. It's just in a way a kind of coincidence in that these men have only been able to have one son be conceived and born. Again, how many times they got pregnant potentially with sons? Their wives got pregnant with sons potentially. We don't know. Romancing someone as an aunt. Yeah, that's a myth that's in there. Well, and yeah, I mean, Penelope and Odysseus only have one song because Telemachus is an infant when he leaves. So, yeah, kind of a lack of opportunity there. Because 3 sons in 1 year, don't ask questions. It's Hesiod. And you can't really yell about plot holes. It's Greek mythology. Yelling about plot holes really does turn into old man yells at cloud. Like, it's relatively nonsensical for a reason, in a way. Yeah, Megapenthes was illegitimate, but well loved by Menelaus and treated well. He's being married off to, so yes. So absolutely they could be cared for. Now, each person, how they care for their various children, air quotes, legitimate or not, is going to depend person by person. But yes, Megapenthes was treated extremely well by Menelaus and Helen, obviously, because she's woman of the house. And they secure for him a fine marriage match. Yeah. Trying to argue plot holes and logistics, guys, we know that we should not ever get in the weeds on logistics. Just don't question it. Poor Iolus yelled at by old men. Oh, you mean epic Iolus. I'm like, no? I know ancient Greek men were expected to be okay and even favorable to violence, but what about the women? Would they be shunned for any discomfort around it, or is that only a standard for men? Like if a woman was shocked by violence or they feared it, that would be totally normal. Yeah, no. Nobody would look at a woman as strange for being shocked, appalled, or even fearful of violence. They're usually the recipients of it in many cases. So yeah, no, that would not be considered strange at all. Versus men where they're like, bruh, pick up your sword, let's go. A woman being afraid because of gender, they'd be like, no, it's a womanly thing to be afraid. That is okay. Penelope does sleep through the slaughter. Yes, Athena gives her a good nap because she needs it. Yeah, I was gonna say, my poppy going, don't get lost in the weeds. Like you're losing the plot, basically. Oh, Eustathius, his fucking Scolia. Feckin' Scolias. But yeah, so no, Telemachus does also mention in book 16, he says, I am my father, Zeus made our line one of only sons, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, he's not specifically saying Zeus cursed. He's just saying like a blessing or whatever from the goddess. We've just, had our line. It's just happened to be only sons. Arcesius was an only son. He only had Laertes. Laertes only had Odysseus. And Odysseus only had me. Lol, JK. No, he didn't. You mean my husband's soothing show of affection and safety? Yes, that's how we think of the slaughter. So yeah, it's so again, the idea of the only son thing, it's not a curse, like an official curse or something brought down by a god. It's a description used by Telemachus. I've personally never taken it to think like, oh, it's clearly a curse. I'm like, pregnancy and childbirth are dangerous, even more so back then. The idea that they only managed to have one son doesn't seem that weird, to be honest. No geography, no concept of time, just a banging narrative. Exactly. Penelope's not built different at all. She absolutely fears violence. I mean, like anybody would. She's not, and again, she sleeps through the slaughter because Athena helps her to sleep. So there's that. It does establish the surprise factor for the Telekinesis, though. Yeah, unless you know Hesiod, which they all kind of would too. Because again, Hesiod notes, oh yeah, no, they had 3 kids, 3 sons, him and Circe. So it really wasn't. And here's the thing, again, it's not a surprise. surprise by this point. Again, if we're working under the idea that these are myths that have existed and they're just getting written down, it wouldn't be a surprise. Maybe for us in the future, but for the actively practicing ancient Greeks, likely would not have been that much of a surprise. They only had one son. It's actually not likely because, again, if you consider how easy it was for especially young children to die, as I say, you wanted an heir and a spare, at least. Would bards be sold like slaves? If not, would they ever change who they work for? Bards are sort of like freelancers. The bard can travel around. Now they might get, they are free men. They are not slaves. Now you could be a slave who has a talent as a bard, but being a bard does not necessarily mean you are a doulos. You were likely a freeman, but you never know. So again, like your occupation and whether or not you were a doulos or a freeman, like those things are not mutually exclusive. Oh, bye, Sarah. But good question, Clover. And you could also work in a way with a household and not be a doulos. Think of, in a way, though we're stretching a bit, Icarus's dad. Why am I blanking on his name? I think it starts with a D. Whatever the case. Daedalus, thank you. I'm like, it's a D. My brain kept going to Deucalion, and I knew that's not right. Daedalus. Yeah, like, Daedalus works for many different kings. He's not a slave. I mean, he is kind of an exile on a couple of those, but he's not a doulos. He's a freeman. What drinks am I drinking? Oh, I have water in my big tumbler. Gotta have water. And in the mug, I've got actually some quick thought tea. So I got my sparkly tea in there. Alas, I can't show it off. So I have water and I've got tea. That particular mug for the tea just like keeps drinks warm for a really good period of time. Constantly interrupting Homer like, bruh, this isn't school, live a little. Well, so the interesting thing about like hearing retellings of the like recitations of the Odyssey and the Iliad, like that was a whole event, and people would like it was part of religious festivals, and you would even like compete to do who would do the best oration of it, which I'm like, oh my god, you'd be sitting there for days just hearing the Odyssey over and over again.